Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. In today's podcast, I'm going to talk about something that has helped me so much, and that is the one thing to do when you feel that you're about to lose your cool with your kids or your child. I tell you, this has come out of my own experience as a mom of 4. Okay, they're all adults now, but even still, my adult children sometimes can make me lose my cool, and I still use this system and this technique that I'm going to walk through with you on this podcast today that's going to help you. Now, I've got a book coming out. I'm sure you've heard by now. If you've been listening to me, coming out on August 8th, called How to Help You Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. So it's how to help you as a parent, teacher, caregiver, whatever, help your child manage mental health. And I'm literally got my pen marked with an example in here of what I'm going to talk about today. And, this has come out of parenting experience, clinical application, and research. So this book is hands-on. It's easy to read. It's full of practical stuff. I'm finding myself constantly looking back at this thing and thinking, hey, that was a good thing to say. I remember doing that. And, so really, I think it's going to help you a lot. We also have a little Brainy toy. And throughout this book, I've got all this little cartoon that I created called Brainy. And it's beautifully illustrated by an amazing artist. And we've got the little Brainy toy. We've got a coloring book with the Brainy character in the coloring book, all as your sort of mental health toolkit for your child. And we know mental health is really a challenge, and it's been handled so badly. We can't label our children and diagnose and label them. We have to help them manage through issues. But today, I'm going to talk about the one thing you can do that can help you not lose your cool, or when you're about to lose your cool with your kids. And I know I have a whole lot of thoughts going through my head of examples, and I'm sure you have too. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to give you like the big picture, and then we'll do an exercise together. So the first thing is when your kids do something, or your children, if you have multiple or one, do something that really triggers you and you're about to lose your cool, your brain, mind, body, psychoneurobiology is going to get chaotic. So in other words, that means that you're going to be your messy mind, which doesn't think with the best clarity, which is a total normal part of us, but it needs to always be managed by the wise mind. But in that moment when you triggered, the messy mind is dominant. So all you can literally see is that situation. It's that shouting, it's that sibling fighting, it's what that child has said or done. It's that situation, and all you can see is this messiness. And all you can see is this chaos, and you just feel your whole body responding, okay? What we have to do immediately is calm down our psychoneurobiology, our mind-brain-body connection. Messy mind means chaos in the brain, which means neurochemicals all out of sync, the wrong ones flowing at the wrong time. You're going to have a massive amount of energy flowing through your brain from the situation that your mind's put into your brain that's triggering and creating like a tsunami in your brain. This is going to affect the electromagnetic effect of the brain. So your physics goes wrong, the energy levels, the neurochemistry, the electrochemical reactions in your brain, everything's going like chaotic. Obviously, there's different degrees. That then sends a message to your hypothalamic pituitary axis, so your stress starts moving into a toxic state. So instead of your stress axis working for you and helping you have clarity of mind, it's working against you. Your cardiovascular system is activated, so your heart's palpitating, and there's a link between the frontal lobe and your heart, like a little loop, for want of a simple explanation, that is like a feedback loop. And that's a great part when we are self-regulating. That becomes very active in helping us to sort of observe and function, observe ourselves and self-regulate our responses and regulate how our body's functioning. That is masked. There's a whole lot of genetic things that are happening. Oh, it's very, 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 very fast. Your endocrine system has responded. Even your breathing, how your oxygen levels would have changed. You'll have a drop in oxygen at the front of your brain. The blood flow through your brain changes, and all in the negative. So when you triggered, and obviously I'm describing quite an extreme state. This is obviously on a scale. If it's a huge trigger, then you have huge responses and vice versa. But either way, whatever level, it's going to create this complete physiological change in your body, in your brain, neuro change in your brain, neurophysiological change in your brain and in your mind. So mind-brain-body connection is in chaos. In that state, you're not operating in wisdom. You are not operating in your wise mind. And the chances of you saying something or doing something that you will regret has increased by 100%. So the one thing to do when you're losing your cool is the following. Get your neurophysiology under control first. Get yourself in a state where you actually have got the messy mind under control as well as the brain and the body. And you can do that in 10 seconds. Okay? And if it's really bad, you can do multiple cycles of 10 seconds, and I'll tell you exactly what to do, and we'll do it together. And those, if you, like 6 to 9 times, so 60 to 90 seconds, you can get your neurophysiology back under control. So if it's a little thing, 10 seconds works. And you can just add the sort of 10 seconds on per how, challenging the situation is. What this will do is it's a form of brain preparation, and it's called a 10-second pause. And it's a form of brain preparation. It's preparing your brain to calm down. And it's your mind doing it. So it's basically a mind, brain, body preparation to prepare yourself to do wise work, to respond in the correct way. And it calms down your neurophysiology. So it's going to increase oxygen to the front of your brain. It's going to, and you'll feel that immediately, it's going to balance the blood flow and increase the blood flow to the front of your brain. It's going to calm down the tsunami energy in your brain and turn it into, more manageable waves of energy in your brain. It's going to get the two sides of the brain working together. It's going to calm down the response in places like the amygdala in the brain. It's going to increase the connection. It's going to activate that and unmask that loop between the heart and the frontal lobe of the brain, which then helps for you to sort of see things with more clarity. It's going to calm down your HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary axis, so the right amounts of adrenaline, cortisol, and the various different ACTH, various different types of chemicals are flowing. That's going to send a message to your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system, your respiratory system. Literally every system in your body will then start calming down. And it happens as fast as you can get triggered. This can help you. And there's many other things, but this I have found foolproof. And I practice it so often that it helps me so much. And I've used it not just in situations of calming down, cooling down before I respond. I've used it in other situations as well. But really, this is like a foolproof way of cooling down. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. Good old-fashioned breathing, but done in a very specific way. You're going to breathe in for 3 counts, but I want you to put your hand on your stomach. And when you breathe, you really breathe a deep, noisy breath in. So it's, and your whole stomach is like filled with oxygen. And your children might think that that's like an anger response, but you can just, once they understand what you're doing, and you must teach them this too, because they could also, do the same thing so they can calm themselves down. So it can be a collaborative effort and you can all help each other calm down. So it's deep breath in for 3. So in 2, 3. 2, 3, and you hold for a little bit, and then you force it out for 7 counts, but like a noisy, push it. Okay, I'm going to count and I want you to do it with me. So you're going to breathe in and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I was talking and breathing at the same time. So now I'm just going to count for you. Breathe in, 2, 3, out, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, breathe in, 2, 3, now out, forcefully, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do it again. In, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? I don't know if you're really feeling heady. You can do it 2 ways, as you can see. Heady because of the oxygen going into your brain. But you can do it 2 ways. As I counted I counted in 2, 3, and then I counted 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or you can do it in 2, 3, and then you can count 1 out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can say in 2, 3, out 3, 4. Sorry, in 2, 3, out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In 2, 3, out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or you can go in 2, 3, or you can just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whatever comes out the easiest. Make sure it's 10 seconds. And the 10 seconds is quite slow. The last, I counted a little bit fast. The speed is going to be in 2, 3, out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I've done it a few times, but if you've been breathing with me this whole time, you're going to feel like almost high, like almost floaty. But that has done all those wonderful things to calm down your neurophysiology so that you can get yourself into a mental space where you can actually get your messy mind under control, and you can start tapping into the depths of your wise mind so that you can then assess the situation and formulate the correct response, which may be not to give any response. It may just be, hey guys, before we deal with this, all of us are going to take some time out. Let's just for a moment sit quietly and breathe a few more times and not just talk for a few seconds, and in a few moments we'll talk. If necessary, maybe you need to just move to different parts of the room. Don't send them off to their rooms because it's not resolved. Don't do that because that creates the wrong kind of thinking inside of themselves. It's just for that moment you're going to create some mental space, and maybe just even turn your backs to each other for a moment while you calm down. Okay, so once you've breathed, this has got your neurophysiology under control, your psychoneurobiology under control. If you need to breathe 1 10-second pause, or 3 or 5 or 6, 9 is kind of the sweet spot, 90 seconds, but you may not have 90 seconds because of what's going on in front of you. You may only have time to breathe 1 10-second pause because you've got to separate kids because maybe they're fighting or something like that. So you might have to be breathing in and grabbing those kids' hands at the same time if you've got to separate children or whatever the circumstance is. Okay, so that works brilliantly. Now that's something that you can do and practice as often as you can. I mean, the other day I was driving somewhere, and this is unrelated to keeping your cool. I was driving somewhere and it had been a really long day and we still had a couple of hours to drive, and my husband had fallen asleep in the car, and I was starting to get so tired because it had been a very intense day, and I started getting such a sore stomach because I hadn't eaten all day, which was, I don't know why I didn't do that, but anyway. And all I could do then was breathe as I was driving to keep myself awake, and I did this 10-second pause literally over and over, took little breaks, and it really woke me up, sorted out the sore stomach, and I managed to finish driving us all the way home. I mean, that's just a silly example, but this has become something that is just, it's amazing in terms of calming down. If I'm about to get on the stage, I'll do it. But every time I'm under a sort of threat, like something that I've got to deal with that's hard, and I feel myself wanting to just explode, I do that. When I don't, I do explode. So, and then when I explode, there's always the consequences. So that's the one thing that you can do. But now that's the preparation to continue and manage a pattern that's potentially occurring. So as a parent, messiness is inevitable. I've done a couple of podcasts on this, and messy parenting should be embraced. But once we've done this breathing and got our, as we're about to lose our cool, we've got our breathing going, we've done this 10-second pause, we feel more in control, we're not going to lose our cool. We then need to work out, okay, why did I respond like that? Now, you don't have to do that directly with your kids. You can do that separately. You can go through a Neurocycle on your own to work out, why you are being triggered in the situation every time, and to work out what you can do to build resilience, which will come through the recheck and the active reach and practicing the Neurocycle consistently over time. You can also, with time permitting, you could do a quick Neurocycle with all your kids in that moment, or all your kids, if it's one child or two children or however many, if it works out in order to manage the situation, which I highly recommend, and I tell you exactly how to do it in this book. And I mean, in fact, I'm going to give you an example in a moment. I'm going to read something out of the book in a moment. And then you could, once you've got this sort of pattern of neurocycling going, then you can do this on a regular basis. But if you're being triggered, it's really important to find out, what is this consistent trigger. If there's one of your kids or more of your kids that are doing something and you're finding yourself reacting consistently in this way to them, or maybe your partner is doing, you notice that they get triggered by the same thing and the same reaction every time, then you could tell your partner to do the 10-second pause so they don't lose their cool, and then encourage them to do a neurocycle to work out why specifically that is triggering them. Okay, so we don't want to just do the breathing, because brain preparation alone is like letting a plane take off and then you don't do anything else and the plane crashes. So if you just do the breathing, it'll calm you down in that moment. But if you don't resolve the underlying issue, which is that pattern or that trigger that's occurring, or build your resilience, then that's going to happen again. So every child brings a dynamic to the family that's going to create a bunch of challenges. And the more kids you have, the more dynamics and more challenges. You changing, you've got things happening in your life. So messy parenting is inevitable. So the 10-second pause is going to come in handy all the time. But we need to follow the 10-second pause with a sustainable process, and that is the neurocycle. And as I've said, on yourself to find out why in the moment with your actual children, to help manage that situation, and encouraging even the children to do it on their own, or you doing it separately with the children to try. And once you've got the neurocycle to calm things down, you do neurocycles to find out the source of the trigger, why it's happening, what you can do to change it. So this doesn't become that particular thing doesn't become a repeated pattern. And then you carry on, and then the next thing triggers you, and then you work that one out. And it's inevitable, it's going to continue. This is a lifestyle. But you don't need the same thing to be triggering. So if it's the same thing all the time triggering you, then it's really important to do the work on yourself to find out why the trigger is there and why you did that, and to explain that to your child. Because maybe they didn't even do anything that was, maybe it wasn't a fight or them challenging you about something. It could just be something completely innocent that they did that then triggered you and you lost your cool. Okay, so that's where the neurocycle would come in. So I'm going to tell you two things. The one from I just want to read from the book. I have a story of something like this on page 171. It's about social interactions and the neurocycle. And I say it's basically a little story about how you can use the neurocycle at any point, in any one moment, in the need of if something arises. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You can use it. The big stuff, you can sit down and have a specific neurocycle time. But as these things happen in the moment, the neurocycle is how you get your wise mind or messy mind listening to your wise mind, putting the right energy through the brain, getting the neural networks under control and getting your body under control so that you can say the right thing, do the right thing, show up in the right way, get things under control, get wisdom into the situation. Okay, so it's a mind-driven neuroplasticity system that can be used for big stuff and then also in the moment. So I have a little story in my book on page 171 of a family of 5, and it's based sort of loosely on a combination of stories of people. And to visualize it, you've got a mom, a dad, their 7-year-old twin girls and their 10-year-old boy. They arrive at a family get-together, and just as they're about to get out of the car, one of the twins starts crying, and the brother, very frustrated because he wants to go inside and play with his cousin's new puppy, starts yelling at him. And then she starts crying even louder, and her face is going red and splotchy, and then she goes from sobbing to screaming that she doesn't want to go inside, and then she said she hates the family and that she won't go in because they will tease her. And they always telling her she's too skinny and small and wears stupid glasses. And now her twin sister Jane now starts crying. And so this is now a classic situation where you want to lose your cool. And so first thing there is, both parents are starting to now try and deal with this chaos and they want to get inside, is to take a deep breath and to do this 10-second pause. Breathe in for 3 and out for 7 to do the 10-second pause. But that doesn't happen straight away. So first of all, the parents initially, fairly calmly still try to persuade Chantal that it'll be fun and everyone loves her and it won't be so bad. And she looks smarter with her glasses on, and they tell her she's still growing. So they give her some logic and reasoning, which was all great stuff. So they calm, they're operating in their wisdom. But then she just keeps screaming and even louder and more upset and wailing, and I refuse to go in and hanging on the car door. So now they're losing their cool. And they initially respond, they lose their cool, they respond with raised tones, they say things like, you're embarrassing us, you overreact, the family knows you parked here, and all kinds of things, what's the problem? And then the brother and sister jumps in, and it becomes this whole chaotic thing. And then something happens. Mom remembers the 10-second pause, breathes in for 3, out for 7, gets herself under control, and she starts, this is just in this situation, could have been anyone in the family who did this. So she quickly does a neurocycle on herself. She stops and gathers awareness. Okay, I'm feeling so frustrated. I'm frustrated. My body's tense. Warning signals. Emotional warning signal. Totally frustrated. Body tense. Snapping and shouting at her child. Trying to reason with her and getting irritated. Perspective, oh gosh, this is happening again. Okay? Quick, takes under 10 seconds. Why am I doing this? Well, this has happened before, something's going on, but I want to get inside, I want to see my family, I don't need this now, whatever, we know why. Okay, visualizing, third step is to write. So the first step is to gather awareness, second is reflect, third is to write. Now, she may not have paper and pen in the car and it's in the spot and on the moment, so then you just visualize. And what she does is kind of stand back and watch the situation like she's watching a movie. So she sees herself and her husband getting cross and the 3 kids and Chantal and whatever in the whole situation. So she visualizes quickly. This is all can be done literally in like less than 10 seconds. Once you've got a hang of the sort of sequence, the sequence is key. Going through each of these, this is bringing order back into chaos. So the breathing and then following with the neurocycle in these very specific steps. And then she does a quick recheck and say, okay, well, this is just going to get out of hand. She then rechecks for a moment by trying to see the situation from Chantal's perspective. Excellent. So the recheck is step 4. It's, okay, this has happened. Chantal's in this state. It's chaos. We're all mad. I'm calmer now. I have to calm down enough to calm down Chantal, to calm down the family. So let me try and see, my recheck is, what can I do? I can try and see it from her perspective. I can try and get into Chantal's shoes. Maybe something is going on here that we need to pay attention to, which helps her understand how going inside is a frightening situation for Chantal. Once she does this, it becomes easy to move into the active reach, which is the action. Which is an action. So she did this reconceptualization, putting herself in her child's shoes, which then calms her down even more. And she then went into an active reach, which was, okay, get into the back seat, climbs in the back seat, puts her arm around Chantal and said, okay, let's talk about this. Then they swing to another neurocycle, which is the mom telling Chantal, validating, okay, you feel scared, you don't want to go inside, you're screaming, identifies the 4 signals. Let's talk about why you're doing this, because, you can see it's upsetting everyone. So let's, let's start talking about why. And then she talks about, that kind of leads to the third step where she, in her mind's eye, she starts visualizing the child and she tells them about how she was teased and all that kind of stuff and talks about a situation that she described in the beginning, but she talks about that situation in more detail. She's visualizing it. Everyone starts listening. There's the empathy starting to happen between them, collaboration, etc. And then they recheck together. The whole family by this stage is involved, saying, okay, well, that's not really nice. That has happened. What can we do? Let's work out a solution. Action, they work out a solution to go inside together. They'll hold her hand. If the cousins start teasing her, she's going to go and call her sister and her brother to help her. That doesn't work. They'll call the adults. Point is, they made a plan. They went through the sequence. They got inside the house. Okay, so there's just an example of something like that that's in the book. And I give so many tips like that of how you can go through these steps to keep your cool. You've got to keep our psychoneurobiology under control. It starts with that breathing. It's the first thing that you do to get that neurophysiology under control. Then you can step into the neurocycle where you can then work through the sequential process that then helps to calm down the neurophysiology even more and find those solutions. How are we going to deal with the situation in this moment? And that can calm down the amount of words and the amount of emotions that are flying all over the place and help you keep your cool. I'll give you one more example of a situation that happened years ago when I wasn't as good as neurocycling as I am now. It was still in its infancy, being developed. Well, it was developed, but I was doing it more with my patients and I didn't apply it enough with myself. And my second daughter was very young and my husband was starting a new business at that stage. And I had my practice and I was really busy and I had, 2 children at that stage and young children. And I was, pretty tired and we were financially stretched. And my daughter said something to me, this little one of she was probably 3 or 4 years old. And she said something that I'd lost my cool. I did not do the 10-second pause. I reacted really badly. I yelled at her. I got really angry. She was so confused. I just remember her looking up at me with her big eyes and saying, can I go to my room now? And I said, yes, go to your room. And everything I did wrong. I lost my cool. I did everything wrong. And she ran off to her room, and it just hit me what happened. And I remember sitting down and thinking, okay, I really need to do. It wasn't called the Neurocycle then. It had a different name. It was basically called it had a long involved name, but I'll shorten it to I'd use these 5 steps. And I sat down and thought, oh my gosh, look at my reaction. This was my emotion. This was my behavior, etc., etc. This is, why am I doing this? Why did I react so much to that? And I just started, doing a metacog in my journal of, I wrote down my emotions again. I wrote down my behaviors. I wrote down my perspective in that moment. I wrote down my body sensations. I was totally frustrated. My whole body was tense. I yelled, and my perspective was, oh no, this is terrible. I thought, well, why is this terrible? Why am I feeling, why did I have such a reaction? And then I just started pouring thoughts on paper of what was going on in my life at that moment with a bit of a financial crisis we were in and things I was worried about. And so, well, what did she say specifically that triggered me? And then I found that, and then I thought, okay, I did this. It was totally messy. It's okay to be a mess. I've impacted her. I've hurt her. She's young. It's confusing. I can't, this has to be dealt with. What's my active reach? I'm going to go sit with her, and I'm going to go and apologize to her and explain to her. That was Neurocycle number 1. Started off with, first of all, breathing. So I did the 3-7 breathing, the 10-second pause. Then I went to her room, knocked on the door, asked if I could come in, and said, can we breathe together? Mommy's very sorry. And then I said, I've demonstrated the Neurocycle. Mommy shouted at you. I was worked up and angry. I went through the signals. I said, I'm very sorry. I should not have done that. I did that because I was worried about something. And that worry made me say the wrong things. And I shouldn't have done that. So this is now the visualizing. Explain the situation. You said that and I said that. The recheck. I shouldn't have done that. That hurt. This is where it came from. This is what I should have done. I should have just said to you, I should have just listened to what you'd said to me, and I should have calmly explained to you why that sentence upset me, or I shouldn't have got cross with you. You didn't do anything wrong, and can you forgive me? Little action step there, active reach. Can you forgive me? How can I help you? Now tell me how you feel. So I quickly modeled what I did wrong and how I handled it, and then took her through a Neurocycle, like, how did you feel when Mommy shouted at you, and walked through the 5 steps to get to a point where, big hugs at the end and we forgave each other and whatever. So there were 3 Neurocycles done in that time period. The whole thing took probably 15 minutes. The breathing 10-second was used, 10-second pause. I did, at the beginning of each of the Neurocycles, and did it multiple times. The first time, 6 to 9 times the first time, because I was really worked up still and upset. And then when I started telling her, I also felt, going to the room, I felt so guilty. So I did it 3 or 4 times. And by the time I did it with her to help her calm down, we did it a couple of times as well. So there we go. There's a couple of examples for you. I explained the 10-second pause in here. I explained lots of other different examples, and also how to explain the Neurocycle to a child as young as 2 and 3. This book is for ages 3 through 10. And I wish I had this when I was younger. So I hope this helps you. And I know you're going to love Brainy, and the coloring book creates environments. The coloring book has got scenarios that, you could even go to in a situation like that. I could have a picture. I think there's a picture here of a mom getting cross with a child. I could have gone, if I had this sort of thing, I could have gone and said, let's color this in. This is what happened. How did it make you feel? And we could have drawn some pictures on the blank side of the page. And, so what I'm trying to give you is a toolbox to help your child process. If I just kept quiet and not said anything and not done anything, it would have built up all kinds of confusion in my daughter. And that time I handled it. There's been times that I didn't, but I've had the chance as she's got older and as they've got older, the times that I didn't fix things up, where I didn't sort out the impact of my reactions, that I've had the opportunity to listen and say sorry and work through a Neurocycle and help them deal with the impact as well. Well, I hope this has helped you. And if you haven't yet, go and pre-order this book, How to Help Your Child, my new book, How to Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. There's some great pre-order bonuses. You get a big discount on Brainy and the coloring book. There's a webinar on how to deal with going back to school. There's a few other bonuses. But boy, most of all, I know that this book is going to help you. It's very simple, very practical, really shows you how to help a child understand how to deal with things like anxiety and depression and just the challenges of life, getting them strong, getting them resilient, not pathologizing childhood. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time.